Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 6 of the Pranic World Festival. We're here live at the Eden Pranic Center, Cacore, Italy, and we're so happy to be joined by such amazing speakers again today. Dr. Roy Martina, he's a holistic medical doctor, and he's the author of more than 86 books. His wife, Joy, and him are doing quantum science workshops that are live streamed around the world. And I'm sure that we're going to be really enlivened and blessed by what he's going to share. And Roy, I just want you to know that we all have many people gathered here at the center or under the trees. Their smiling faces are beaming back at you. You can only see me here right now, but just envision that there's more than a half of us here and so many people online smiling back at you right now. Thank you. Welcome, Roy
Yeah,
Martina.
it's an honor and a pleasure. Right now, I'm at home in Salzburg, Austria. And yeah, I'm a kind of a traveler. I'm gonna just introduce myself a little bit because I'm kind of a strange person, let me put it this way. I do crazy things, and I want to talk about my passion and my mission and how this whole also pranic, I would say, lifestyle comes into place. And I want to explain why I'm a part-time Breitarian and not a full-time Breitarian. And then I want to go deeply into what is unconditional love. And to understand unconditional love, we have to understand who we are, and what we're coming to do here, and why this is so important. And my current passion is quantum science. I love everything about quantum. It's actually a very old science because it's a science about energy. And when we go back into the Vedic sciences for 6,000 years, they already spoke about quantum. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to also talk a little bit about the concept of God and what it is, and spirit and the soul, because there's a lot of confusion. And I'm going to tell you also where I get my information from, because who am I, right? So let's begin with that a little bit. I'm at this point 68, turning 69 next month. And I've been a holistic doctor for 44 years. And my main passion is research. So I'm not just a practitioner who's trying to help people. I'm a practitioner who's trying to understand why we get sick and go to the deepest levels possible. And because of that, okay, I need to speak a little slower. Thank you. Because of that, I've done a lot of research over the years. So one of the things that really has changed our life from Joy, my wife, and me is hypnosis. And why hypnosis? I'm going to explain that to you, because when we meditate, it's a form of hypnosis. Because for me, hypnosis is going into trance. All right, so just think about it. Why is trance so important? Trance is only important for one reason. Trance is the only way for us to get out of our human being form into our true all being form. So I want to repeat that. Trance is the only way for us to get out of our human being form into our all being form. So trance can bring us to our original self. That's important. And with hypnosis, we are guiding people to go deep into trance, to bypass the human being form, and to go into the all being form. And that's where we gather a lot of information. So we gather information about what happens when you die, what happens when you come here, what happens before you come here. So we got a lot of information about that. So on the other side, I'm also in martial arts, and I'm a world champion martial arts. I have an 8th-degree black belt. And the reason martial arts is important for me, it keeps me on earth. Okay. I'm kind of floating away constantly into space, and I need a way to stay here because I'm very sensitive. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm part-time Rotarian. I have a family. I have a daughter and four kids, and my daughter is only 12 years old. And it is not easy as a child to understand a parent that's not eating or not drinking. And she's very sensitive and already unique in ways that it's difficult for her to be in schools and stuff like that. So and my wife has had in her life a period where she was anorexic, and for that reason, we do not want my daughter to be exposed to that, to me not eating it. So when I'm with my family, I eat, drink, and then when I go on missions, I have a very strong connection to the Amazon with the shamans there. So I go there. Actually, exception was COVID. I go there to explore medicinal plants and so on and connect with the shamans and all of that. And when I do that, I am living on light. And you must understand the shamanic energy is the fourth dimensional energy. We'll get a little bit into the third, fourth, and fifth dimensional concepts. So the shamanism is much closer to earth. So it is much more dense energy, a lower vibration but high frequency. We'll get into that a little bit later too. And when I'm there, there's a lot of what we call low vibrations. And to protect yourself, it's good to have a high frequency. So that's one part. Also, when I teach certain workshops, I prefer to be living purely on light because I'm more connected to my all being. And when I'm drinking or eating, I'm much more into my human being. So it's a kind of a balance. And everybody needs to make the choices that are for them the best way to move forward. And I'll explain a little bit of that too. But first, I want you to understand the three types of wisdom that we have. The first type of wisdom is borrowed wisdom. Borrowed wisdom means that today, after this lecture, you will have new concepts. And maybe you resonate with these concepts, maybe you don't. If you resonate with these concepts, you may start talking about these concepts, and that's the borrowed wisdom. And the moment you experience what you experience in your life, you have your own wisdom. Now, let's first go back to borrowed wisdom. Borrowed wisdom that I pass on to you is my own experience, right? And part of it is borrowed from hypnosis. So when I work with my clients, okay, slower. Okay, I'll breathe a little bit more. So when I work with clients and do hypnosis, I learn from them, right? That's borrowed. When I live on light and I channel or my wife channels, that's my own wisdom. What is true for me may not be true for you. We'll get a little bit more into that. We need to understand the levels of truth in the universe. So your own experience creates your wisdom. But your own wisdom is your wisdom. It works for you. It may not work for me. So we like to
Probably.
talk about our wisdom, but we need to always respect the fact that it is our wisdom and it may not be true for another person. Let me give you an example. If you have cancer and you decide, okay, I'm gonna eat carrots every day and red beets, okay, and you cure from cancer. Now you're gonna become a messenger for red beets and carrots. You're gonna say to everyone, you need to eat red beets and carrots, okay? That's not true for everyone. Does it make sense? So your experience is your experience. Then we have another form of wisdom that's higher wisdom. And higher wisdom is what we get from, I call it the quantum field. You can call it universe, the multiverse. Not the problem with higher wisdom is you have to see it in a certain way that you do not have access to all the wisdom. You have access to a certain part of the wisdom, depending on your own evolution, depending where you're coming from, depending on which source you're getting information from. So if you're getting information from your guides or from angels or from whatever ascended masters or spirits or the source, these are different levels of wisdom. And even there's alien wisdom out there with other civilizations. So we have to be very careful with each type of wisdom. We always need to remember that the wisdom that we're receiving is a wisdom for us. And everyone needs to find their own way in that. We can guide people, and that's why I love hypnosis, because with hypnosis, we go under the human being, we go into the all being, and then people gather their own wisdom. It's not what I tell them, it's what they find for themselves. And this can be totally different. My job, what I see as my job, is to give people the tools to find wisdom. My job is not to tell you this is the wisdom, this is the truth. Never. But I like to share my experiences because you may resonate with some of it. And because of that, you then can find your own truth. So just remember that everything I'm going to say is coming either from my own wisdom, it can be borrowed wisdom, or it can be a higher wisdom. And you need to feel what resonates with you. And what resonates with you is for you to explore and to discover and to find your own path. And then you create your own wisdom from everything that's there. So, this is my introduction. Okay, so as I said, my wisdom comes from experiments. So, why did I start with living on prana? Because as a doctor, I didn't believe in it. No, it's impossible. I remember I heard about Yasmin. Yasmin was one of the persons that in that time 20, 30 years ago was teaching this. And I said, no, I don't believe it. This is impossible. And I was a holistic doctor. I believe a lot about other things. But living on light, living from prana, no way. So I went to do research and I met Yasmin. And coincidence, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it, when she was teaching a one-day workshop in Amsterdam, I came there and a lot of people knew me. I'm very known in Holland. And the translator that day was sick. And they asked me if I was willing to translate Yasmin on stage. And I said, yes, I want to be next to her. I thought she was a charlatan, some person just telling stories, right? So for the full day, I was with her on stage. After that day, number one, I had tremendous respect for her because I saw that she was authentic, it was true. I could feel her energy, I could feel her love, I could feel her sincerity. For me, that was magic. Okay, thank you. And but something happened after that day. I couldn't eat or drink anymore for a few days. So just being in her energy field, not believing anything, just listening, something in me changed. And it took me 3 or 4 days before I could eat and drink again. And that got my mind into being open that is possible. And that's when I did it. This is, I think, like 18 years ago. I did the whole process. I lived on light for 6 months. It was an incredible experience. And I experienced literally what we will call today enlightenment. It's not only living on light, but it is the embodiment of pure love. I had no negative thoughts. I only could feel love for everyone unconditionally. We'll get back into that later and I'm going to explain a little bit more. And it was a marvelous experience. There was a few problems. Problem number one is you don't care about doing. It is not you're not running around doing things. You are in the state of being, which is totally different state. So I was not, let's say, working in that sense, running, doing things. I was just no time, no space, just experiencing love. So that's one thing. And I have a big mission on this planet, and it requires me to do things, right? And the second reason is that, everybody's eating, and that's okay, but it creates a different energy. Okay, when you're sitting there, you're invited, and you're watching people eat, and they're watching you not eat. It's kind of interesting energy. But the most important reason for me to stop this for a while was that the only thing people were interested in was pranic living. How do you do it? My mission is a different mission on this planet. Yes, I support the pranic living. Yes, I do this regularly, but it's not my mission in life to teach about it. We have marvelous teachers to do that. In Holland, I have a dear friend, Braham Maynor. He's a great teacher. He's teaching that. I support him. I send people to him. I have a different, what we call assignment. I'll get into that a little bit later. So you have assignments on this planet. You come with a mission, and we get into what the mission is and why this happens. But first, I want to explain how I understand what we are. And it may be true for you, maybe not, it doesn't matter. It's quite complex. So people talk about spirit. Okay, what is a spirit? And people talk about soul. What is a soul? And are we a spirit? Are we a soul? Okay, so I want to make a distinction between the different things. So to understand the distinction, we need to understand quantum science. In quantum science, it is the concept of time. What is time? In quantum science, when we are not in the three-dimensional reality, there is the experience of no time or the experience of all time. So either you don't experience time or you experience all time at once. So all the information that will ever happen is already in the quantum field. Everything in the future, everything in the past is in the now into the quantum information field. There is no past, there is no future, there's only the now. So that's a concept that not everybody can really grasp because we are locked into a human body. And I'll get deeper in what the human body is and how it alters our perception of time. It alters our perception of love. Okay? So we are a spirit. What is a spirit? A spirit is a consciousness, an intelligence, but it's quite complex because we have everything happening now, the past, the present, the future, millions of life. Your spirit is experiencing now. The best word to use is you're having in your spirit form an infinite amount of experiencing right now. How do we understand that? So, what do? We want to have those experiences. We want to live those experiences. We create a body, and in the body, everything slows down. And now we are in a three-dimensional reality. And in the body, we're experiencing just a little part of infinity. So in the human form, we can experience a little bit of what is. Yeah. So our spirit wants to experience everything. Okay. So that's why we have an infinite amount of bodies, not only human bodies, it is infinite. We are even aliens on other planets, if you believe in that, right? So it's infinite. Our mind cannot comprehend infinity, okay? So in quantum, we talk about parallel timelines, and that's to explain the concept. What is a parallel timeline? A parallel timeline is that we are experiencing in the same body different lives at the same time. So right now, you're listening to me in your body in this timeline. At the same time, there are many infinite variations on this life in this linear time happening at the same time. Wow. Okay. And I'll show you later how you can use that because this is what I'm studying, how you can use that to become happier, to become more unconditional loving, right? Then we have the past. So some hypnotists are specialized in past life regression. So they can bring you into a past life. But the past life is still happening in the now because everything is happening in the now. When we change a past life, we are really changing something in the now. So if I change something that seems to be in the past, it can have an effect in the now. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have a phobia. You have a phobia for tight spaces. We call it claustrophobia. You get panic if you go in a tight space, right? But somewhere in all your infinite experiences, maybe you were locked in a coffin and you were still alive and you died. So now the memory of you dying in a small space is still in the quantum space and you're connected to that memory. So that's why you have claustrophobia in this moment. If we take you back to that experience and we heal it, your claustrophobia is gone in the now. How is that possible? Okay, so it's so complex that I get dizzy from all these things that happen. We're going to make it practical for you as well. Now, we have a spirit. The spirit is all knowing, all being. And for each life, we have two things. One is called a higher consciousness, and the other is called a soul. So a higher consciousness is the part of the spirit that you are connected to that gives life to the body. We call it the higher consciousness. The higher consciousness is a little ray of light coming from the spirit. The spirit, see the spirit as the sun with infinite rays of light going in all directions. Each ray of light is connected to a body. And each body has its own little higher consciousness. And then each body has its own soul. So, what is the soul? The higher consciousness is part of the spirit. It is connected to the all knowing, all being part. It cannot be corrupted. It is pure. It is pure love. The soul is the part where we can suffer. So the soul contains the memory of our experiences as we go through time. So when we do hypnosis, we can contact the soul and go, for example, to a past life, or we can connect to the spirit and go to the all-knowing part. That is the difference. The soul can be wounded, and the soul has one mission, and it's to heal itself by learning how to become like the spirit. Okay? So to become like the spirit, we need to heal our soul. So enlightenment is a way that we have healed our soul. We have no more, we're not carrying suffering with us anymore. We will go deep into suffering because that is part of the human experience. Okay, so why is this important? Because a lot of people talk about soul mission. Your number one soul mission is to heal the soul. But your life, you can fill in with assignments. So the assignments can be being a mother, a father, being a lover, being a friend, or maybe you have a passion for animals, maybe you have a passion for nature. These are things that resonate with you. That's an assignment. But your soul has just one mission, is to heal itself. So the primary soul mission is healing. I have chosen as an assignment to be a holistic doctor. It's an assignment. It's not my soul mission, but in being a doctor, I can also heal my soul. Does you understand? So in the assignments we find, we learn, we find new ways to heal our soul. So it's very important to understand that. So the soul is a learning tool. A lot of people talk about forgiveness. Okay, a lot of people believe that something has been done to you and you need to forgive, right? So someone has done something and now you need to forgive the person because they've done something to you. But that concept is not completely true. It is true on one level. Okay. Imagine going to school. You have a kindergarten level, you have lower classes, you middle school, and you have to university. On the highest level, nothing has done to you. There's something done for you. Do you understand the difference? It's not done to you, it's done for you. And the reason it's done for you, it will give you a way to heal your soul. So all the bad things that happened to you didn't happen to you, they happened for you. Once you understand that, this is very important, okay? Once you understand that everything happens for you, not to you, then you look at life in a different way. Because that's the path to unconditional love, is to understand that nothing happens to you. It feels like it happens to you. You feel the pain, you feel the suffering. But once you understand that all incidents in life are there for you to find a way for you to grow, to evolve, and to heal your soul. Okay? Now, we talk about learning. We need to learn lessons. Is that true? Do we need to learn lessons? Well, you need to learn lessons until you understand that you know everything. So the moment you know everything, there are no lessons to learn. Okay, so yes, I've learned my lessons and I've done the normal way. And you see the steps in evolution, right? You start at a certain level, you forgive, you learn your lesson, and you can reach a point. When you live on light, you discover there's nothing to learn. Everything is done. You are pure a being of love. You're all being. But when you're in the human being form, you are learning, right? So it's at two different levels. So that's why when we go back to trance, a way to use trance is to connect to your all being form. And your all being form can show you everything you need to know so you don't need to learn lessons anymore. So if something happens in your life, something happens to you go and ask your spirit, why did we create this for me? And once you understand that everything is created for you, then you look at life in a different way. So when I'm challenged in life, for whatever reason, when there's a conflict, I know it's happening for me. So now I connect to my spirit and I ask, okay, what is it that I need to know? So it's a different question than when you ask, what do I need to learn? So there's learning and knowing. So if you know, there's no learning, it is knowing. So I'm proposing to each one of you to ask the question to spirit, what is it that I need to know? What is it that I'm not seeing? What is it that I forgot? What is it that I right now need to do in a different way? How can I look at this from a different perspective? So these are the questions that you ask the spirit. And the most important question is, how can I heal my soul? When you encounter pain and suffering, even in a disease form, okay? You can have a painful knee. And you can go to the doctor and ask for help. You can go to an acupuncturist, ask for help. You can go to a healer, ask for help. You're asking for help. But you can go to the spirit and ask, what do I need to know? Or if you want, what do I need to learn? It doesn't matter. These are just words, but I want you to understand from different perspectives. So now we can talk about unconditional love. Unconditional love is nothing else what you are, not who you are, what you are. The spirit form is pure. That's what you are. Who you are is the chosen identity. Number one, we identify ourselves with the body. I say, I'm a man. My spirit is not a man or a woman. It's a unity. It is pure, right? It's pure love. So I choose a body to have an experience. Now you can ask, why do we need this experience if we are all knowing? Very important question. Thank you for asking. Now here's the point. We are pure knowledge, pure being. When you're pure knowledge, pure being, you want to experience what you are not. So we are pure love. So we choose a body, a family, a culture, a religion, a place on this planet to experience what we are not. And this is why we have to soul. We want to test ourselves. Can we be ourselves in any environment? So the moment you choose a body, we have a big, big challenge, and that's the ego. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ego now for you to understand that the ego is the eternal battle between light and darkness. So the ego is where light and darkness are fighting with each other. The ego is where we create duality. And let me explain that in a way. Because a lot of people talk about ego, but when you study the ego, what is the ego? The ego is part of being human, not part of being spirit. Your spirit has no ego. Your spirit doesn't need to be right because it's pure love. Your ego is a mechanism of survival. You have to understand that. The body is on a planet, and the planet is not a safe place. If you are born into a city or you're born into a jungle, they're two different survival environments. If you're born into a jungle, there are dangers. For example, poisonous snakes, predators, animals that can kill you, whatever. You need to understand what these are. And as a human being, we need to be taught by our parents and our environment what is danger, what is not danger. And so our parents educate us what to watch out for, what kind of fruits we can eat, what kind of fruits we cannot eat. So our ego is being programmed by our environment. If you're born into a city, there are other types of danger. Uh, Cars, driving, whatever, you have to watch out for certain things. So the environment will determine the education of the ego. Because the ego is survival. So the ego is part of being human. We need to understand that. But it's programmable. So our environment programs our ego. So for example, if you have a mother who is afraid of spiders, there's a big chance you will grow up with a fear of spiders. Even spiders do nothing. So the ego is being there for our survival. It's part of surviving of the species. As a child, we will do everything to get love because love is also survival. As a little baby, if a baby is not loved, it doesn't get food, it dies, logically, right? So we are being conditioned to do things for love because that we learn as a child is a way to survive. So if our parents tell us, don't do this, don't do that, we get all these rules, this becomes part of our programming. In the first 7 years, we are programmed for life. Once we start becoming more conscious, we need to deprogram ourselves to really find our own truth. What is truly dangerous for us is not. For example, when I first started teaching public speaking, I was terrified. Why was I terrified? I was terrified because maybe the people don't like me, they don't like what I say, or, you know, maybe I cramp up, I cannot say what I want to say. So all these fears come up. These are all not dangers. These are all programs of our ego. And with some training, I trained my ego. It is not dangerous to be there. In the beginning, when you teach, you want to do it very good, to do very well, all ego programming, because we want to have appreciation, we want to have recognition, we want to have attention, we want people to like us, we want people to trust us. All of this is ego based. Remember one thing, ego is not good or bad. Ego is a system that can be programmed. We can reprogram our ego. So if you say someone has a big ego, it's not true. Everybody has the same ego. It is programmed in different ways. So if someone is programmed to be, let's say, rich and work hard, and which a lot of us are or were, that's a program of the ego. All right. It's not good or bad. The ego is not good or bad. It's just a survival mechanism. The question we need to ask ourselves, is the ego forcing you to do certain things, or do you program the ego to do the things for you? Assuming right now that everyone listening and watching are here for one reason. You're here because you want to open up your consciousness more, right? You want to become the best you can be, the best version that you can be. You want to discover more of your potential, what's possible, what's not possible. So in all this concept, we have the concept of spirituality. What is the concept of spirituality? It's very simple. The concept of spirituality is for you to overcome your ego and to make your ego serve your spirit. Spirituality is to overcome your ego and to make your ego serve the spirit so that it no longer is afraid of dying, because the spirit is infinite. The spirit is eternal. The spirit cannot die. So you start seeing the battle between ego and spirit. Spirit is infinite, eternal. The ego is afraid of death. There's nothing to be afraid of. Let me tell you a little bit of that so you can understand the mechanism of that. Some people know what astral traveling is. Astral traveling is when your consciousness leaves your body and you're aware of being outside of your body. Okay? All of us are astral travelers. During the night, we leave our bodies, we go into other dimensions, we go to different places, even different planets, whatever, even through time. Okay? But we are not conscious of it. Some of us may remember strange dreams from astral traveling, right? Some of you may even think you have nightmares while you're astral traveling, maybe into a certain environment that is dark. You get a nightmare, but you're just astral traveling. You can train yourself to consciously astral travel. There are trainings for to learn how to astral travel. What does this training teach you? It teaches you how to get out of your body and stay conscious. So the body is in a sleeping position, the body is sleeping, and you get out of your body and you can look at your body. You're floating in the air, you're looking down on your body, and then you can decide where you want to go. Do you want to be in this timeline? You can move to the future, you can move to the past, or do you want to go to fifth dimension? Do you want to go to another time? All of that is possible with astral traveling. One of the most famous astral traveler was Nostradamus, and he went to the future and he got information of the future and put it in his books or poems or whatever you want to call it. We all astral travel. But when we astral travel, most people see what's called a silver cord. The silver cord Normally, some people see it from the umbilicus to the umbilicus of the body. Some see it from the heart. It doesn't matter. Normally, it's linked to one chakra. Dying is astral traveling without the silver cord. There's no way back. When our body is alive, we're always connected to the body. When the body is done, we are now astral traveling without the body. So astral traveling is one of the ways for us to understand that we cannot die. Astral traveling takes away our fear of death. And astral traveling teaches our ego we cannot die. So that's why I love to teach people astral traveling, because they overcome the fear of death. That's very important for people to understand. Once you overcome the fear of death, you are free. Now you're free to connect to your spirit. As long as any fear of death, you are still governed by your ego. So step number one is to really learn and know and own the fact that you're an infinite being, you're a spirit of pure love. Once you are 100% sure of that, you're free to look at your ego in a different way. Okay? So now we can talk about unconditional love. What is unconditional love? And especially this is important when you want to live on prana, because the best energy that you can bring in is unconditional love. Once the body is nourished by unconditional love, it needs nothing else. That's what we need to understand. So the best way, if you ever want to live on prana, to prepare yourself is start to know, train yourself in unconditional love. If you can start training yourself in unconditional love, that will change everything. The second thing that you can do to make living on prana easier is to start imagining that your body is absorbing this unconditional love, that you're feeding yourself with unconditional love, even if you're still eating food. So, for example, here I have some water. Before I drink the water, I close my eyes and I imagine that this water, I'm putting unconditional love into it, and that this water will feed my body with unconditional love and will replenish, give my body all the energy it needs, all the mineral it needs, all the vitamin it needs, all the nourishment it needs. I put with my mind in this, and through my hands, I allow unconditional love to come from above my head. I imagine being connected to the source, whatever the source is for you, God, the universe, or your spirit. You allow this unconditional love come into the crown of your head and stream into the water. And you fill the water with unconditional love. And when you take a sip of the water, you then again close your eyes and imagine how this gives every cell in your body. I see it as a golden energy. It could be a different color for you, it doesn't matter. Every cell of your body is now being nourished with this golden energy, and it starts to vibrate at a higher level. So, what we need to understand of our body is our body has frequencies and vibration. They're two different things. Frequencies is the speed of the information. Vibration is the speed of the molecules. When the molecules vibrate slower, then it appears in a material form. But the frequency is information. So if I fear is a frequency, a low frequency. If I feel unconditional love or love is a high frequency. So our emotions can create disease. How? Because if you live in fear or in anger, you lower your frequencies of the body. And when you lower the frequencies, you are now also creating lower vibrations. And now you can have a tumor, you can have an inflammation, you can have a disease. If your body is sick, it means that the frequencies are low. So if I bring in love, and I can do it with water, I can bring love, unconditional love, or I can do it by visualization. I bring high frequencies, unconditional love, spiritual energy. I bring it into the parts of my body where the low vibrations are. I am now speeding up the molecules in those parts, and then that can heal much quicker. So just think about it. Any discomfort in your body that you experience is the result in the long end of low frequencies. Change your frequencies, you go into healing. So unconditional love is something we need to practice every day. And what does it mean? Let me explain this to you in a way, because this is one of the best ways to start understanding pranic living. Unconditional love means there are no conditions, right? Ego love means there are conditions. So yes, I have a wife, my partner, and I love my partner. That is human love on one level. But there's also unconditional love on another level, because my partner can be who she is. If it affects me for whatever reasons, it is not her, it happens. Remember what I said at the beginning, it happens for me. I then need to ask the question, what do I don't know? What do I need to know for her to be perfect as she is, and for me to stay in my heart, to stay in love? That's all it is. The moment I say to my wife, her name is Joy, beautiful name, Joy, can you imagine? If I say to Joy, you've done this to me, then I'm in my ego, okay? When I'm in my spirit, I will say, Joy, thank you, you've done this for me. Do you understand the difference now? So either we react from the ego, and then we feel insulted, we feel disappointed, we feel rejected, we feel pain. That's the ego. So the ego wants to be right, the ego wants to be loved. But here's the point. If I am love, I don't need you to love me to feel love. Understand that. If I am love, I don't need you to love me to feel love. This is how we become unconditional loving. Because if I now meet a person, a stranger, I can love the stranger because they are a spirit just like me, having a human experience. We are truly brothers and sisters. Now, my brother, spirit, it could be a stranger, is doing something that creates pain. The only pain that can create is on the level of ego, is a level of the soul. Yes, there is, of course, physical pain. If someone hits you, that's not nice, okay? But even then, if someone would assault you, they're doing it for a reason. How is it possible that someone attacks you? It is impossible for someone to attack you if it's not for your learning. It's impossible. I can go anywhere on this planet, nobody will attack me, because that's not the energy I will attract for my learning. Remember, I'm a martial artist. I know everything about fighting, but I never fight. I don't have to fight because that's not in my consciousness. Now, if someone attacks me verbally, there's no pain. What I see is someone suffering. I see someone projecting their pain, their anger on me. I am just a projection screen for them. And I can tell you, people have attacked me, ridiculed me, written horrible stories about me. But it doesn't affect me. It's not me that they're attacking. They are pushing out what lives in them, their pain and their suffering. That's what they're doing. So to be unconditional loving, we need to understand that people having a human experience are suffering on level of the soul and level of the ego. And when you suffer, sometimes you want other people to suffer as well. And that's why you're putting out your anger, your fear, you're putting out on humanity. So for us is to learn to overcome the ego reaction. The ego reaction is you are doing something to me. You are making me angry. You are not behaving respectfully. You're being mean to me. You're not nice. All of those things are totally irrelevant. If someone does what they do and you can stay in your heart, then you are unconditional loving. And now here comes the most important point. If I can stay in my heart, which is connected to my spirit, and I can look with compassion and unconditional love at someone who's suffering, I can open the door for them for healing. If I react on an ego to ego level, we both are now in suffering mode. Does it make sense? I cannot change you directly from ego to ego level, but you will change when you can feel my love no matter what you do. Because deep in your subconscious mind, you're meeting a person that accepts and loves you just the way you are. And that's unconditional loving. So as long as I can accept everyone as they are without me wanting to change them, because when I want to change them, I'm coming from ego level. But if I accept them as they are, I love them as they are, I have compassion for who they are, then I am at a level of unconditional loving. And then I don't lose energy. Every time I go into the ego battle, it's costing me energy. And when it costs me energy, then I'm blocking off prana. Okay. So the flow of prana happens in a body where it is unconditional love easier than in a body where it is a lot of conflicts, a lot of emotions, a lot of pain and suffering. So any one of you who feel compelled to live on prana, I would, I would advise to you start practicing first unconditional loving. Because when you start practicing that, and when the moment comes that you're ready to step into the pranic world, it will be 10 times easier because it will not be a fight, because your spirit is already sending all its energy through you. And that's so important for everyone to understand. And it doesn't matter if you live on prana or not anymore, because you are already in the unconditional love. And then you have healed your soul and you have fulfilled your primary mission here on this planet in human form. And there's so much more you can do when you're at the level of unconditional love. So practice this every day. Before you go to bed at night, take a few minutes and ask yourself, was I unconditional loving today? If you were not, just visualize yourself back in the situation where you were triggered and ask yourself, if I was unconditional loving right now, how would I behave different? And this way you train yourself to become unconditional loving. And I hope this helps, because I see my time is almost up and I was supposed to leave some time for questions as well.
Thank you so much, Roy. Wow, I know that I am really vibrating high with everything that you've said. I'm sure everyone here is as well.
I'm so
Well,
happy.
yeah, we do have a few questions here.
Mhm.
We have a few minutes if you
Mhm.
like.
Sure.
Yes, so someone is using the word enlightenment here.
Mhm.
So the question is, how do you explain or understand what enlightenment is from the framework of quantum science?
Mhm. Okay. So when we look at the quantum science, we know that all the bodies are linked to a intelligence, right? And that in the long run, there is in all of these infinite timelines, There is a timeline where you are completely aligned with the source, where you, so the way the best to see it is to see yourself in a body as a channel. You're channeling always the light, always the spirit. But the body corrupts because of its experience, it corrupts that. So what I've discovered is the following: when I bring people to the best life they can have, and we're not talking about spirituality. There's a technique that we call quantum timeline jumping or quantum jumping. And then when we do the hypnosis, we say, okay, now you're going to the timeline where you are experiencing your life, the best life that's possible for you. All people say the same: I am pure love. So in quantum science, it's just about the experience. The best experience is that what we call enlightenment. So it is the same thing. It's just not from a spiritual aspect. We're not saying I want to be the best spiritual person. I want to have the best life. It always comes down to enlightenment. So that's the highest level of intelligence and potentiality that we can have as a human being. Mhm.
Wow, it's amazing, Roy, how you take these things that are very nebulous and seem a bit woo-woo to a lot of us and break it down in such practical terms. Thank you so much. I know there are a couple of more questions, but we're kind of at the top of the hour
Yeah.
now. I would encourage those who still have some questions to really connect with you directly and
And I'm
perhaps.
on Instagram, and there every day I share 1 minute of inspiration. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I will happily share with you. Now we're talking about quantum science and how to manifest, materialize from quantum science the best life possible. So find me, Dr. Roy Martina, on Instagram, and I will give you every day 1 minute.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What a wonderful way to share. And there's just one more. Someone wants to know you've written over 86 books. Wow, amazing. If there was one book that you would really say, please, this is a really good either overall of what you are sharing or a beginning point for what you're sharing, what would that book be?
It's a book that became a world bestseller. It's called Emotional Balance, and it's the book that still is still 100% practical for now, and it teaches you how to deal with emotions and conflicts.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Roy. Yes, we know that emotional stability is really a big part of this pranic path.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your radiance, your wisdom, for offering us some borrowed wisdom.
It's my
And
pleasure as usual. Thank you
so
for
many,
inviting me.
so many beautiful beaming faces. Fabio's turning the screen so you can see some of us gathered under the trees here at the Eden Pranic Center, where we're enjoying the 7th World Pranic Festival.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Roy.
See you guys again. Bye bye.
Ciao.